Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again to a new video. In this video, I am going to continue the previous book which I was reading. I have read almost, you can see here it's 26%. So again today I will try to continue reading for almost 1 hour. Yesterday I tried to read for two hours, but I could not finish it. Today I am keeping it realistic. I don't want to hurt my mouth. So I want to keep it for 1 hour today. So it's already, I think, I'll just open the time and show you. It's already 10:40 p.m. So I am thinking I will be reading until 11:40. So today is 10th September and it is the fifth day of my journey. So I'll just close it and we'll start reading. I will continue from where I left yesterday. The boy told him then that he needed to get the pyramids. He almost began to tell about his treasure but decided not to do so. If he did, it was possible that the Arab would want a part of it as a payment for taking him there. He remembered what the old man said about offering something you didn't even have yet. I would like you to take me there if you can. I can pay you to serve as my guide. Do you have any idea how to get there? The newcomer asked. The boy noticed that the owner of the bar stood nearby, listening attentively attentively to their conversation. He felt uneasy and the man's presence, but he had found a guide and did not want to miss out an opportunity. You have to cross the entire Sahara Desert, said the young man, and to do that you need money. To know where I need to know whether you have enough. The boy thought it's a strange question, but he trusted an old man who had said that when you really want something, the universe always conspires in your favor. He took the money from his pouch and showed it to the young man. The owner of the bar came over and looked as well. The two men exchanged some words in Arabic, and the bar owner seemed irritated. "Let us get out of here," said the new arrival. "He wants us to leave." The boy was relieved he could go up and pay the bill, but the owner grabbed him and began to speak to him in an angry stream of words. The boy was strong. He wanted to retaliate, but he was in a foreign country. His new friend pushed the owner aside and pulled the boy outside with him. "He wanted your money," he said. "Tangier is not like the rest of Africa. This is a port, and every port has its thieves." The boy rushed. The boy trusted his new friend. He has helped him out in the dangerous situation. He took out his money and counted it. "We could get to the pyramids by tomorrow," said the other, taking the money, "but I have to buy 2 camels." And they walked together through the narrow streets of Tangier. Everywhere there were stalls which items for sale. They reached the center of the large plaza where the market was held. There was thousands of people there arguing, selling and buying vegetables for the sale among the daggers and the carpet displayed alongside tobacco. But the boy never took his eyes off his new friend. After all, he had all his money. He thought about asking him to give it back, but decided that would be unfriendly. He knew nothing about the customs of the strange land he was in. Just watch him, he said to himself. He knew he was stronger than his friend. Suddenly, there in the midst of all the confusion, he saw the most beautiful sword he had ever seen. The scrap bard was embossed in silver, and the handle was black and encrusted with the precious stones. The boy promised himself that when he returned from Egypt, he would buy that sword. Asked the owner of the stall how much the sword cost. He said to his friend. And then he realized that he has been distracted for a few moments. Looking at the sword, his heart squeezed as if his chest had suddenly compressed it. He was afraid to look around because he knew what he would find. He continued to look at the beautiful sword for a bit longer until he summoned the courage to turn around. I'm getting an important call, so I'll hold this for some time and then I'll continue reading after some time. Asked the owner of the stall how much the sword cost, he said to his friend, then he realized that he has been distracted for a few moments. Looking at the sword, his heart squeezed as if his chest had suddenly compressed it. He was afraid to look around because he knew what he would find. He continued to look at the beautiful sword for a bit longer until he summoned the courage to turn around. All around him was the market with people coming and going, shouting and buying, and the aromas of strange food. But nowhere he could find his new companion. The boy wanted to believe that his friend had simply become separated from his by accident. He decided to stay right there and await his turn. He, as he waited, a priest climbed up to the top of nearby tower and began his chant. Everyone in the market fell to their knees, touched their forehead and the grounds, and took up the chant. Then, like the colony of workers, and they dismantled their stalls and left. The sun began its departure as well. The sun began its departure as well. The boy watched it thoroughly. The boy watched it through its trajectory for some time until it was hidden behind the white house surrounding the plaza. He recalled that when the sun had risen that morning he was on the another continent, still a shepherd with 60 sheep and looking forward to meeting with a girl. The morning he had known everything that was going to happen to him, as selling and buying vegetables for sale amongst draggers and carpets displayed alongside tobacco. But the boy never took his eyes off his new friend. After all, he had all the money. The morning he had known everything that was going to happen to him, as he walked through the familiar fields. But now, as the sun began to set, he was in a different country, a stranger in a strange land where he could not speak the language. He was no longer a shepherd, and he had nothing, not even the money to return and start everything over. All this happened because between sunrise and sunset, the boy thought he was feeling sorry for himself and lamenting the fact that his life could have changed so suddenly and so drastically. He was so ashamed that he wanted to cry. He never kept he never even wept in front of his own sheep, but the marketplace was empty and he was far from home, so he wept. He wept because God was unfair and because this was the way God repaid those who believed in their dreams. When I had my sheep, I was happy. I made those around me happy. People saw me coming and welcomed me, he thought. But now I am sad and alone. I am going to become bitter and disrespectful of people because one person betrayed me. I am going to hate those who have found their treasure because I never found mine. And I am going to hold on to what little I have because I am too insignificant to to conquer the world. He opened his pouch to see what was left in his possessions. Maybe there was a bit left of the sandwich he has eaten on the ship, but all he found was the heavy book, his jacket, 2 stones of the old man has given to him. As he took the stones, he felt relieved for some reason. He has exchanged six sheep for 2 precious stones that had been taken from a gold breastplate. He could sell the stones and buy return ticket, but this time I will be smarter, the boy thought, removing them from the pouch so he can put them in the pocket. This was the port town, and the only truthful thing his friend had told him was that the port towns are full of thieves. Now he understood why the owner of the bar had been so upset. He was trying to tell him not to trust that man. I'm like everyone else. I see the world in the terms of what I would like to see happen, not what actually does. He ran his fingers slowly over the stones, sensing their temperature and feeling their surface. They were his treasure. Just handling them made him feel better. They reminded him of the old man. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. He had said. The boy was trying to understand the truth of what the old man had said. There he was in the empty marketplace without a cent to his name and with not a sheep to guard through the night. But the stones were proof that he had met with a king who knew of the boy's past. They they are called Urim and Thummim, and they can help you read the omens. The boy put those stones back in the pouch and decided to do an experiment. The old man had said, "Ask a very clear question," and to do that, the boy had to know what he wanted. So he asked if the old man's blessing was still with him. If he took one of the stones. It was yes, and am I going to find the treasure? He asked. He stuck his hand out into the pocket and felt around for one of the stones. As he did so, both of them pushed through the hole in the pouch and fell to the ground. The boy had never even noticed that there was a hole in his pouch. He knelt down to find the Urim and Thummim and then put back into the pouch, but as he saw them lying there on the ground, another phrase came to his mind: "Learn to recognize omens and follow them," the old king has said. An omen. The boy smiled to himself. He picked up the two stones and put them back into the pouch. He did not consider mending the hole. The stones fall through any time they wanted. They had learned that there were certain things one shouldn't ask about, so as not to flee from the own personal legend. I promised that I would make my own decisions, he said to himself. But the stones had told him that the old man was still with him, and he made him feel more confident. He looked around at the empty plaza again, feeling less desperate than before. This wasn't a strange place, it was a new one. After all, what he had always wanted was just that, to know new place. Even if he never gets to the pyramid, he had already traveled farther than any shepherd he knew. Oh, if they only knew how different things are just 2 hours by the ship from where they are, he thought. All, although his new world at the moment was just an empty marketplace, he has already seen it when it was teeming with life, and he would never forget it. He remembered the sword. It hurt him a bit to think about it, but he had never seen one like it before. As he mused about these things, he realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as a poor victim of the thief and as an adventurer in the quest of his treasure. "I am an adventurer looking for treasure," he said to himself. He was shaken into wakefulness by someone. He had fallen asleep in the middle of the marketplace, and life in the plaza was about to resume. Looking around, he sought to sleep and then realized that he was in a new world. But instead of being saddened, he was very happy. He no longer had to seek out for food and water for the sleep. He could go in search of treasure. Instead, he had not a cent in his pocket, but he had faith. He has decided the night before that he would be as much an adventurer as the ones he had admired in the books. He walked slowly through the market. The merchants were assembling their stalls, and the boy helped a candy seller to do his. The candy seller had a smile on his face. He was happy, aware of what his life was about, and ready to begin day's work. His smile reminded the boy of the old man, the mysterious old king he had met. This merchant isn't making candy so that later he could travel to the marry shopkeeper's daughter. He is doing it because it's what he wants to do. Thought the boy, he realized that he could do the same thing the old man had done since whether a person was near or far from his personal regard. Just by looking at them, it's easy, yet I have never done it before, he thought. When the stall was assembled, the candy seller offered the boy first sweet he had made for the day. The boy thanked him, ate it, and went on his way. When he had gone only a short distance, he realized that while they were erecting the stall. One of them has spoken Arabic and the other Spanish, and they understood each other perfectly well. There must be a language that doesn't depend on words, the boy thought. I have already had that experience with my sheep, and now it's happening with people. He was learning a lot of new things. Some of them were things that he had already experienced and were not really new, but that he had never perceived before, and he hadn't perceived them because he had become accustomed to them. He realized, if I if I can learn to understand this language without words, I can learn to understand the world. Relaxed and unhurried, he resolved that he would walk through a narrow streets of Tangier. Only in the way would he be able to read the omens. He knew it would require a lot of patience, but Sefard knew all about patience. Once again, he saw that in the strange land he was applying the same lesson he had learned with his sheep. All things are one, the old man had said. The crystal merchant awoke with the day and felt the same anxiety that he felt every morning. He had been in the same place for 30 years, a shop at the top of the hilly street where few customers passed. Now it was too late to change anything. The only thing he had ever learned to do was to buy and sell crystal glassware. There had been a time when many people knew of his shop. Arabs, merchant, French and English geologists, German soldiers were always well heeled. In those days, it had been wonderful to be selling crystals, and he had thought he would become rich and have beautiful women at his side as he grew older. But as time passed, Tangier has changed. The nearby city of Ceuta had grown faster than Tangier, and the business has fallen off. Neighbors moved away, and there remained only few small shops on the hill, and no one was going to climb the hill just to browse through the small shops. But the crystal merchant had no choice. He had lived 30 years of his life buying and selling crystal pieces, and now it was too late to do anything. He spent his entire morning observing the infrequents coming and going in the street. He had done this for years, and he knew the schedule of everyone who passed. But just before lunchtime, the boy stopped in front of the shop. He was dressed normally, but the practiced eyes of the crystal merchant could see that the boy had no money to spend. Nevertheless, the merchant decided to delay his lunch for a few minutes until the boy moved on. A card hanging in the doorway announced that several languages were spoken in the shop. The boy saw a man appear behind corner. "I can clean up those glasses in the window if you want," said the boy. The way they look now, nobody's going to want them to buy. The man looked at him without responding. "In exchange, you can give me something to eat." The man still said nothing, and the boy sensed that he was going to have to make a decision. In his pouch, he had a jacket. He certainly wasn't going to need it in the desert. Taking his jacket out, he began to clean the glasses. In half an hour, he had cleaned all the glasses in the window, and as he was doing so, two customers had entered the shop and bought some crystals. When he had completed the cleaning, he asked the man for something to eat. "Let's go and have some lunch," said the crystal merchant. He put a sign on the door, and they went for a small cafe nearby. As they sat down the, at the only table in the place, the crystal merchant laughed. "You don't have to do any cleaning," he said. "The Korean required me to feed a hungry person." "Well, then, why did you let me do it?" the boy asked. "Because the crystal was dirty, and both you and I needed to cleanse our mind of negative thought." When they had eaten, the merchant turned to the boy and said, "I would like you to work in my shop. Two customers came in today while you were working, and that's a good omen. People talk lots about omens, thought the shepherd, but they really don't know what they are saying. Just as I hadn't realized that for so many years I had been speaking a language without words to my sheep. Do you want to go to work for me? The merchant asked. I can work for the rest of today, the boy answered. I'll work all night until dawn and I'll clean every piece of the crystal in your shop. In return, I need money to get to Egypt tomorrow, the merchant laughed. Even if you cleaned my crystals for an entire year, even you earned a good commission selling every piece, you would still have to borrow money to get to Egypt. There are thousands of kilometers of desert between here and there. There was a moment of silence so profound that it seemed the city was asleep. No sound from the bazaars, no argument among the merchants, no men climbing the towers to chant, no hope, no adventure, no old king or personal legend, no treasure and no pyramids. It was as if the world has fallen silent because the boy's soul had. He sat here staring blankly through the doors of the cafe, wishing that he had died and everything would end forever at the moment. The merchant looked anxiously at the boy. All the joy he had seen that morning had suddenly disappeared. I can't give you the money you need to get back to your country, my son, said the crystal merchant. The boy said nothing. He got up, adjusted his clothing, and picked up his pouch. I'll work for you, he said. And after another long silence, he added, I need money to buy some sheep. So, this is the part 2 of the book. The boy had been working for the crystals merchant for almost a month, and he could see that it wasn't exactly the kind of job that would make him happy. The merchant spent the entire day mumbling behind the counter, telling the boy to be careful with the pieces and not to break anything. But he stayed with the job because the merchant, although was an old grouch, treated him fairly. The boy received a good commission for each piece he sold, and he already had been able to put some money aside. That morning he had done some calculating. If he continued to work every day as he had been, he would need a whole year to be able to buy some sheep. I would like to build a display case for the crystal, the boy said to the merchant. We would place it outside and attract those people who passes at the bottom of the hill. I would never had I have never had one before, the merchant answered. People will pass by and bump into it and pieces will be broken. Well, when I took my sheep through the field, some of them might have died if we had come upon a snake, but that's the way of life with the sheep and the shepherds. The merchant turned to a customer who was there, who wanted the crystal glasses he was selling better than ever, as if the time had turned back to the old days when the street had been one of the Tangier major attraction. Business has really improved, he said to the boy after the customer had left. I am doing much better, and as soon as you will be able to return your sheep, why ask more out of life? Because we have to respond to omens, the boy said, almost without meaning to. Then he regretted that what he had said because the merchant had never met the king. It's called the principle of it's called the principle of favorability. Favorability, beginner's luck, because life wants you to achieve your personal legend, the only king had said. But the merchant understood what the boy had said. The boy very presence in the shop was an omen, and as the time passed and the money pouring into the cash drawer, he had no regrets about having hired the boy. The boy was being paid more money than he deserved because the merchant, thinking that sales wouldn't amount to much, he has offered the boy high commission rate. He had assumed that he would soon return to his ship. Why do you want to go to pyramids? He asked, to get away from the business of the display. Because I have always heard about them, the boy answered, saying nothing about his dream. The treasure was now nothing but a painful memory, and he tried to avoid thinking about it. I don't know anyone around here who want to cross the desert just to see the pyramids, said the merchant. They are just a pile of stones. You could build one in your backyard. You could you have never had dreams of travel, said the boy, turning to wait on a customer who had entered the shop. 2 days later the merchant spoke to the boy about on the display. I don't much like the change, he said. You and I are not like Hassan, the rich merchant. If he makes a buying mistake, it doesn't affect him much, but we too have lives. We too have to live with our mistake. That's true enough, the boy thought drew ruefully. Why did you want, why did you think we should have the display? I want to get back to my sheep faster. We have to take advantage when luck is on our side and do as much to help it as it's doing to help us. It's called the principle of favorability or beginner's luck. The merchant was silent for a few moments. Then he said, the Prophet gave us a Quran and left us in five obligations to satisfy during our lives. The most important is to believe only on the true God. The others are to be pray 5 times a day, fast during Ramadan, and be charitable to the poor. He stopped there, his eyes filled with tears as he spoke of the Prophet. He was a devout man, and even with all the impatience, he wanted to live his life in accordance with Muslim law. What is the fifth obligation? The boy asked. 2 days ago you said that I would never dream of travel, the merchant answered. The fifth obligation of every Muslim is pilgrimage. You are obliged at least once in our lives to visit the holy city of Mecca. Mecca is a lot farther away than the pyramids. When I was young, I wanted to do was put together enough money to start the shop. I thought that someday I would be rich and I could go to Mecca. I began to make more money, but I could never bring myself to leave someone in charge of the shop. The crystals are delicate things, and at the same time, people were passing my shop all the times heading for Mecca. Some of them were rich pilgrims traveling to in caravans with servants and camels, but most of the people making pilgrimage were poorer than I. All who went there were happy at having done so. They all placed the symbol of the pilgrimage on the door of their house. One of them, cobbler who made his living mending boots, said that he had traveled for almost a year through the desert, but that he had got more tired when he had to walk through the streets of Tangier buying his leather. Well, why don't you go to Mecca now? Asked the boy. Because it's the through it's the thought of Mecca that keeps me alive. That when what's helped me face these days, and that are all the same. These mute crystals on self, and lunch and dinner at the same horrible cafe. I am afraid that if my dream is realized, I will have no reason to go on living. Your you dream about your ship and the pyramids, but you are different from me because you want to realize your dreams, and I want to dream about Mecca. I have already imagined 1,000 times crossing the desert, arriving at the plaza of the sacred stone, the 7 times I walk around it before allowing myself to touch it. I would already imagine the people who would be at my side, and those in front of me, and the conversations and the prayers we would share, but I am afraid that it would all be disappointment. So I prefer just to dream about it. That day, the merchant gave the boy a permission to build the display. Not everyone can see his dreams come true in the same way. 2 more months passed, and the shelf brought many customers into the crystal shop. The boy estimated that if he worked for 6 more months, he could return to Spain and buy 60 sheep, and yet another 60 in less than a year. He would have doubled his flock, and then he would be able to do business with the Arabs because he was now able to speak their strange language. Since that morning in the marketplace, he has never again made use of Urim and Thummim. because the Egypt was now just a distance, a dream for him, as was Mecca for the merchant. Anyways, the boy had become happy in his work, and he thought that all the time about the day when he would disembark as Tarifa as a winner. You must always know that what it is when that you want, the old king had said. The boy knew that he was now working towards it. Maybe it was his treasure to have wound up in that strange land, meet up with the thief, and double the size of his flock without spending a cent. He was proud of himself. He had learned some important things, like how to deal in crystal, and about the language without words, and about omens. The afternoon he had seen the man at the top of the hill complaining that it was impossible to find a decent place to get something to drink after such a climb. The boy, accustomed to recognizing omens, spoke about the merchant. Let's sell tea to the people who climb the hill. Lots of places to sell tea around here, the merchant said, but we would sell tea in crystal glasses. The people will enjoy the tea and want to buy the glasses. I have been told that beauty is the great seducer of men. The merchant did not respond, but that afternoon, after saying his prayers and closing the shop, he invited the boy to sit with him and share his hookah, that strange pipe used by the Arabs. "What is it you are looking for?" asked the old merchant. "I have already told you I need to buy my sheep back, so I have to earn this money to do so." The merchant put some new coals on the hookah and inhaled deeply. "I have had this shop for 30 years. I know good crystals from bad, and everything else there is to know about crystals. I know about its dimensions and about how it behaves. If we serve the tea in crystals, the shop is going to expand, and then I'll have to change my way of life. Well, it's it isn't that good. I'm already used to the way things are. Before you came, I was thinking about how much time I had wasted in the same place while my friends have moved on and either went bankrupt or did better than they had before. It had made me very depressed. Now I can see that it hasn't been too bad. The shop is exactly the size I wanted it to be, and I don't want to change anything because I don't know how to deal with the change. I am used to the way I am." The boy did not know what to say. The old man continued, "You have been a real blessing to me today. I understand something I did not see before. Every blessing ignored becomes a curse. I don't want anything else in my life, but you are forcing me to look at the wealth and the horizons I have never known. Now I have seen them, and now I see how immense my possibilities are. I am going to feel worse than I did because before you arrived, because I know the things I should be able to accomplish, and I don't want to do so. It's a good I refrained from saying anything to the baker in Tarifa, thought the boy to himself. That they went on smoking the pipe for a while. As the sun began to set, they were conversing in Arabic, and the boy was proud of himself for being able to do so. There had been a time when he thought that his ship could teach him everything he needed to know about the world, but they could never have taught him Arabic. There are probably other things in the world that the sheep can teach me, thought the boy, and he regarded the old merchant. All they ever do so really is to look for food and water, and maybe it wasn't that they were teaching me, but that I was learning from them. "Maktub," the merchant said finally. "What does this mean?" You would have to be you would have to have been born an Arab to understand, he answered. "But in your language it would be something like it's written." And he said, and as he smoothed the coals in the hookah, he told the boy that he could begin to sell the tea in the crystal glasses. Sometimes there just no way to hold back the river. The men climbed the hill, and they were tired when they reached the top, but they saw the crystal shop that offered refreshing mint tea. They went to drink the tea, which was served in beautiful crystal glasses. My wife Never thought of this, said one, and he brought some crystals he was an entertaining guest that night, and the guest would be impressed by the beauty of the glassware. The other man remarked that the tea was always more delicious when it was served in the crystal because of aroma was retained. The third said that it was for a tradition in the Orient to use the crystal glasses for the tea because of it had magical power. Before long, the news spread, and the great many people began to climb the hill to see the shop that was doing something new in the trade. Mm, In the trade that was so old, the other shops were opened and the served the tea were opened that served tea in crystal, but they weren't at the top of the hill and they had little business. Eventually, the merchant had to hire two more employees. He began to import enormous quantities of tea along with his crystals, and for the shop was sought out by the men and women with a thirst of new things. And in that way, the months passed. The boy awoke before dawn. It had been 11 months and 9 days since he had first set foot on African continent. He dressed in an Arabian clothing of a white linen bought especially for this day. He put his headcloth in the place and secured it with a ring made of camel skin. Wearing his new sandal, he descended to the stairs silently. The city was sleeping. He prepared himself a sandwich and drank some hot tea from the crystal glass. Then he sat in the sun-filled doorway smoking the hookah. He smoked in silence, thinking of nothing and listening to the sound of the wind that brought the scent of the desert. When he had finished his smoke, he reached out to his pocket and sat there for a few moments regarding what he had withdrawn. It was a bundle of money enough to buy himself 120 sheep, a return ticket, and a license to import products from Africa to his own country. He waited patiently for the merchants to awaken and open the shop. Then the two went off to have some more tea. "I am leaving today," said the boy. "I have the money I need to buy my sheep, and you have the money you need to go to Mecca." The old man said nothing. "Will you give me your blessings?" asked the boy. "The You helped me." The man continued to prepare his tea, saying nothing. Then he turned to the boy. "I am proud of you," he said. "You brought a new feeling into my crystal shop, but you know that I am not going to go to Mecca, just as you know that you are not going to buy your sheep." "Who told you that?" asked the boy, startled. "Maktub," said the old crystal merchant as he gave the boy his blessing. The boy went to his room and packed his belongings. They filed They filed 3 sacks. As he was leaving, he saw in the corner of the room his old shepherd pouch. It was a bunched up, and he had already hardly thought of it for a long time. As he took his jacket off the pouch, thinking of to give it to someone in the street, the two stone fell to the floor. Urim and Thummim. It made the boy think of the old king, and it started him to realize how long it had been since he had thought of him. For nearly a year he had been working in sense insensit insanely insanely thinking only of putting aside enough money so that he could return to Spain with pride. "Never stop dreaming," the old king had said. "Follow the omens." The boy picked up Urim and Thummim, and once again he had the strange sensation that the old king was nearby. He had worked hard for a year, and the omens were that it was time to go. "I am going back to doing what I did before," the boy thought. "Even though the ship didn't reach to speak Arabic, but the sheep had taught me something even more important, that there was a language in the world that everyone understood." The language the boy had used throughout the time he was trying to improve things at the shop. It was the language of enthusiasm, the things accomplished with love and purpose, and as a part of search for something believed in the desired. Tangier was no longer a strange city, and he felt that just as he had conquered this place, he could conquer the world. When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it, the old king had said. But the old king hadn't said anything about being robbed, or the endless deserts, or about the people who knew what their dreams are built what their dreams are but don't want to realize them. The old king had not told him that the pyramids were that the pyramids were just a pile of stones and anyone could bring build in his own backyard, and yet he has forgotten to mention that when you have enough money to buy a flock larger than the one you had before, you should buy it. The boy picked up his pouch and put it with other things. He went down the stairs and found the merchant waiting on a foreign couple, while the other two customers walked about the shop drinking tea from crystal glasses. It was more activity than usual for the time of the morning. From where he stood, he saw the first time that the old merchant's hair was very much like the hair of the old king. He remembered the smile of the candy seller on the first day in Tangier when he had nothing to eat and nowhere to go. That smile had also been like the old king's smile. It's almost as if he had been here and left his mark, he thought. Yeah, and yet none of those people have ever met the old king. On the other hand, he said he always appeared to help those who are trying to realize their personal legend. He left without saying goodbye to the crystal merchant. He did not want to cry with other people that he was going to miss this place and all the good things he had learned. He was more confident in himself though, and felt as though he could conquer the world. But I am going back to the fields that I know to take care of my flock again, he said to himself with certainty. But he was no longer happy with his decision. He had worked for an entire year to make a dream come true, and that dream, minute by minute, was becoming less important. Maybe because that it wasn't really his dream. Who knows? Maybe it's better to be like the crystal merchant, never go to Mecca and just go through the life waiting to do so. He thought again, trying to convince himself, but he held Urim and Thummim in his hand and had transmitted to him the strength and the will of the old king. By coincidence, or maybe it was the woman, the boy thought, he came to the bar and he had entered on his first day there. The thief wasn't there, and the owner brought him a cup of tea. He can always go back. Being a shepherd, the boy thought, I learned how to care of the sheep, and I haven't forgotten that how that's done, but maybe I'll never have another chance to get to the pyramids of Egypt. The old man wore a breastplate of gold, and he knew about his past. He really was a king, a wise king. The hills of Andalusia were the only 2 hours away, but there was an entire desert between him and the pyramids. Yet the boy felt that there was another way to regard his situation, as he was actually 2 hours closer to the treasure. The fact that the 2 hours had stretched into an entire year, it did not matter. I knew why I want to get back to the flock, he thought. I understand sheep, they are no longer a problem and they can be good friends. On the other hand, I don't know if the desert can be a friend, and if it's the desert that I have to search for my treasure. I don't find it. If I don't find it, I can always go home. Sorry. I finally have enough money and all the time I need. Why not? He suddenly felt tremendously happy. He he was always go back to being a sefer. He could always go back to being a sefer. He could always become a crystal salesman again. Maybe the world had another hidden treasures, but he had dreamt that he had met with a king. That doesn't happen to just anyone. He was planning as he left the bar. He had remembered that one of the crystal merchant suppliers transported his crystals by means of carbons that crossed the desert. He held Urim and Thummim in his hand. Because of those two stones, he was again on the way to his treasure. I am always nearby when someone wants to realize their personal legend, the old king had told him. What could it cost to go over the supplier's warehouse and find out if the pyramids were really that far away? The Englishman was sitting on the bench in the structure that smelled of animals' sweat and dust. It was a part of warehouse, part coral. I never thought I would end up in a place like this. he thought as he leafed through the pages of the chemical journal. 10 years at the university, and here I am in coral. But he had to move on. He believed in women all his life, and all his studies were aimed to finding out one true language of the universe. First, he had studied Esperanto, and then world's religion, and now it was alchemy. He knew how to speak Esperanto, he understood all the major religions well, but he wasn't yet alchemist. He had unraveled the truth behind important question, but his studies had not taken him to the point beyond which he could not seem to go. He had tried in vain to establish a relationship with an alchemist, but the alchemists were strange people who thought only about themselves and almost always refused to help him. Who knows, maybe they had failed to discover the secret of the master's work, the philosopher's stone, and for this reason kept their knowledge to themselves. They had they had already spent much of the fortune left to him by his father fruitlessly seeking the philosopher's stone. He had spent enormous amount of time at the great libraries of the world, and had purchased all the rarest and most important volumes on alchemy. In one, he had read that many years ago a famous Arabian alchemist had visited Europe. It was said that he was more than 200 years old, and that he had discovered the philosopher's stone and elixir of life. The Englishman had been profoundly impressed by the story, but he would never have thought it more than just a myth. He had not a friend of his returning from an archaeological expedition in the desert told him about the Arab that was possessed of exceptional powers. He lives at Al-Fuzim Oasis, his friend had said, and the people say that he is 200 years old and is able to transform any metal into gold. The Englishman could not contain his excitement. He concealed all his commitments and pulled together the most important of his books, and now here he was sitting inside a dusty, smelly warehouse. Outside, a huge caravan was being prepared for crossing the Sahara and was scheduled to pass through Al Fayoum. I'm going to find that damned alchemist, that Englishman, though. Oh, I'm feeling very sleepy, guys. I think I won't be able to continue today. Uh, I have already read for around almost 48 minutes. I think I have 10 more minutes to read. For today's, I think compared to yesterday, I was speaking a bit better. I was taking the pause, and my speed of reading has also increased. Today, while I was talking to some of the clients at at my work, I realized that my speaking fluency has improved a bit. It's not like noticeable, but it was better than what I used to speak initially. So I have started little. I believe that so far I have given around 4 5 hours of mine reading, reading books, reading about reading the essays at Aeon essays. So these things has not given me a significant impact, but it has given me slight understanding of the words. It has given me little bit of a speaking confidence, so now I believe that I am speaking more confidently than I was speaking in my initial first video. Now I think I can my mouth after speaking a lot in English, my mouth has opened up, and now I can use new words more easily. Like my tongue twister. Like I think there was a problem over there. I am not able to understand, but it was like something, if I don't if you try to speak French and if you don't know, so your mouth get mumbled, it gets kind of it is kind of a jigsaw puzzle which you are not able to solve. For example, when a child try to speak a big word in the initial days, they mumble and they are not able to speak it clearly. So that has happened to me, and in this I think I have reached a little level of improvement in that, which is noticeable. I won't think it will be noticeable for you, because I'm reading all these books, and which is just coming onto my screen, and I'm going on reading it. But it's surely noticeable to me. So this was day 5 of my English speaking journey. I have spent almost 4 to 5 hours, you can say, reading, and this is the basic changes which I have noticed, and I'll continue to upload my journey until 365 days. So this is day 5. Stay tuned for the more videos I'll be uploading on the next reading. I want to continue cover the complete this book, and then we'll start by reading another one. This is also adding to my wisdom, and this will help me in later life as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed reading along with me. Even if you are not reading along with me, I would always recommend to come to the end of the video, and around 5 or 6 minutes ago, and listen to what I am what my experiences, what my days, what is my total like total takeaways from the entire things which I am doing. So at the end of the video I will always give the details, so you can just skip the initial parts if you don't want my reading, and then you can listen to the last part. But I would always recommend to read long, or you can just watch hear me reading. Maybe this will help you grasp few new words, and then who knows, probably while you can also follow me along and read your own book at your own time. So this will help. I can rate that from my initial days I have made around improvement of around 3%, I can take it. So in coming days I will take it as a percent how much I have improved. So for the timing, I think that I have improved 3% from what I was previously. 3% in 4 hours, it's not a bad deal, and I think I'll achieve more than 40% in coming 5 to 18 hours. I think if I continue reading for 18 hours, I'll be easily going to get around 40% in the reading, and maybe 20% in the speaking as well. So thank you for being along with me. Have a good day, have a good night, and see you again in another video tomorrow.